The most simple way to evolve a Pokemon is to just level them up. However, not all evolution methods are as simple as grinding for EXP or slapping an evolution stone on their face. Some methods require you to become a sweaty gamer and grind them out, while others, well, they're just annoying. So let's count down the top 10 most annoying Pokemon evolution methods, starting off with one of the more unique evolution methods in Scarlet and Violet. If you explored Paldea, you've probably noticed groups of first stage Pokemon hanging out with stronger evolved Pokemon acting as their leader. One line that takes this dynamic to the next level is Bisharp's evolution into Kingambit. Here's how it works. You'll need to find a group of Pawniard being led by a Bisharp and either catch that Bisharp to get its leader crest, or if you already have a Bisharp, you have to use Thief to snag the crest for yourself. Once you've got the leader's crest, take your Bisharp, who now holds that crest, and face off against 3 other leader Bisharps. This not only signals to the other Bisharps who run these streets, but also triggers its evolution into Kingambit upon its next level up. Like so many other evolutions we'll talk about, the game doesn't tell you any of this. If you don't stumble across the method on your own or look it up, you'd probably never even know. Plus, let's be honest, how many players are really going out of their way to challenge a bunch of wild Bisharp with their own? Because of its obscure nature and the effort required, this method lands at the very bottom of our list at number 10. By the way, let me know in the comments below which evolution method you think is the most annoying. Generation 8 introduced us to Galarian Farfetch'd, a regional form of the Johtonian Farfetch'd, but this form also gained an evolution known as Sirfetch'd. That all sounds great until you realize the hoops you've got to jump through to make it happen. While every wild Farfetch'd visually has a leak, only about 50% of them actually hold one as an in-game item, and while that may be a little annoying, it's not even the worst part. The real challenge comes with the evolution requirement. Your Farfetch'd has to land 3 critical hits in a single battle to evolve it into Sirfetch'd. The leak item does boost your crit rate by 2 stages, yet it's a double-edged sword and it's not going to work out well for you. 1, you're hitting harder, which makes it way too easy to knock out the Pokemon you're battling before you rack up all 3 necessary critical hits. On the other side, if you go for a higher level or tank your opponent to prolong the fight, you risk Farfetch'd getting knocked out instead. So while catching a Farfetch'd and snagging a leak is fairly easy, the whole evolution process as a whole is very RNG heavy and a total headache. And because of the sheer luck involved, this method earns its spot at number 9. Hopefully you're good at math, because these next evolution methods come with some very specific requirements to hit before your Pokemon can evolve from the game Legends Arceus, with Weirdeer, Basculegion, and Overqwil. And let's not forget about Scarlet and Violet's Annihilate. Let's start with Stantler. To evolve it into Weirdeer, you've got to use the move Psy-Shield Bash in Agile style at least 20 times. Sounds simple enough, right? But here's the catch. Using a move in Agile or Strong style costs 2 PP instead of 1. That means you can only use Psy-Shield Bash 5 times before needing to heal up and restore your PP. Now rinse and repeat until you've hit 20 uses, and yeah, it's a grind. The same deal with Hisuian Quillfish, which evolves into Overqwil after using the move Barb Barrage in Strong style 20 times, or Primeape into Annihilate by just spamming Rage Fist 20 times. Luckily, Game Freak made it easier for Quillfish with the update 3.0 in Scarlet and Violet, so Quillfish just needs to know the move Barb Barrage to evolve. But we also need to talk about White Stripe Basculin, because it evolves into Basculegion. It needs to take at least 294 HP of recoil damage. If Basculin faints during this process, all the damage resets and you've got to start over. So if you're not one-shotting wild Pokemon with Wave Crash or paying attention to how much recoil damage you're taking, you actually risk getting KO'd by your opponent or by your own recoil. Either way, it can end in an absolute disaster. These specific methods may not be the hardest, but the time-consuming grind and the need to figure out basic math, looking at you, Basculin, makes them worthy of landing in the number 8 spot on our list. Next, we have a Pokemon that needs a teammate in the party to evolve. And well, before Diamond and Pearl era, Mantine was a basic single-stage Pokemon. However, like many others in Generation 4, it got a baby form Mantike. Cute? Sure, but figuring out how to evolve this little guy, not so much. Unless you were the player who actually took the time to read Mantine's Pokédex entries to gain all the insight instead of mashing the A button, you probably had no clue what to do. From gold to platinum, at least one game's version's Pokédex entry hinted that Mantine and Remoraid were bros, with Remoraid tagging along wherever Mantine went. It's not stated in fine print, but if you use context clues to connect the dots, you might realize you need a Remoraid in your party for Mantike to evolve, starting at level 1. If Mantike gains a level with Remoraid on the team, boom, Mantike becomes Mantine. Then we've got the Pokemon Pancham from Generation 6. Once you've raised this little fighter to at least level 32, you'll need a Dark-type Pokemon chilling in your party for it to evolve into Pangoro. But here's the funny part. The game doesn't tell you this at all. If you never happen to add a Dark-type to your team, well, you're out of luck. Completely in the dark and have no idea how to get this evolution. And speaking of figuring things out by trial and error, let's not forget about the bizarre case of Nincada. When it hits level 20, it'll evolve into a Ninjask automatically. But if you don't have an empty slot in your party, you'll completely miss out on the Pokemon Shedinja. That's right, no space in your party, no spooky ghost bug for you. None of these evolution methods are explained well or at all in the game unless you somehow have stumbled upon them or did a deep dive outside the game, and that's why these are taking our 7th spot on the list. Next up is an evolution method that might look sweet, but trying to pull it off, especially for completionists, is anything but. We're talking about evolving Milcery into Alcremie. If you didn't know, Alcremie has 63 possible forms, combining 9 different flavor bases with 7 different sweet garnishes. This may sound sweet, but there's a catch. In Sword and Shield, the only way to get the sweets required for evolution was by battling in the battle cafes in Motostoke, Hammerlock, and Windon once a day. Even then, the rewards were completely random, and there was no guarantee you'd even get a sweet. However, there was a limited time max raid event during Valentine's Day a few years back that showered a bunch of players with sweets for beating the Alcremie raids. But if you missed it, good luck trying to collect even the 7 sweet types, let alone trying to get enough for all 63 forms. If you happen to snag one of these sweets, your next step was figuring out when and how to evolve your Milcery. Depending on the time of day and the way you spun your character, yes, literally spinning your in-game trainer, while Milcery is holding the sweet, you'd get a different form of Alcremie. Can we get an F in the chat for your broken Joy-Cons once you keep doing this? Luckily, Scarlet and Violet's DLC made sweets a bit easier to find by scattering them as pickup items in the terrarium, but you'd still need to search them out and collect multiples if you're aiming for the full set. Just evolving one Alcremie to complete the Pokédex, that's easy enough, but for collectors trying to catch them all, this method is an absolute grind, and if you're a shiny collector on top of that, then good luck. So for that reason, I'll be putting this at the number 6 spot. If you're a solo player with no one to connect with online, this next evolution method is just flat out impossible to pull off on your own. Game Freak has always encouraged players to team up and trade, but this one might have taken the idea a little too far, and that idea is evolving Finizen into Palafin. While exploring Paldea's coast, most of us probably spotted a Finizen, this adorable little dolphin, and thought, yeah, this one's going on my team, and I just have to level it up. That's only half the battle. To evolve Finizen into Palafin, you had to hop online and start a union circle. This lets you visit another trainer's game or vice versa. Once you've linked up, you'll then need to level your Finizen to at least level 38 for the evolution to happen. Now, I get what they were going for here. Dolphins are super social creatures, and connecting with other players mirrors that idea. Cool concept in theory, but in practice, it's a total bummer for anyone without someone to play with. For anyone in that boat, Palafin might as well not exist. Because of how restrictive this method is for solo players, we're going to be placing this at number 5 on our list. Let's talk about Inkay, another Pokemon with a truly wild evolution method. Given that its species name is literally the revolving Pokemon, we probably should have guessed some shenanigans were in store for evolving it into Malamar. Back when it debuted in X and Y, trainers would happily and unknowingly add Inkay to their team, level it up, and then nothing. So what were they missing? Turns out you needed to flip your entire 3DS upside down when Inkay leveled up, or at level 30. Yup, you heard me, physically rotate the console. Of course, in typical Game Freak fashion, there were no in-game hints or NPCs to spell this out for you, leaving most players to figure this out through trial and error. Or let's be real, you probably just used the internet. But somehow this evolution method got even worse in Scarlet and Violet's Indigo Disc DLC. When Inkay returned, so did the upside down mechanic, but it came with a really frustrating twist. If you were playing docked on your TV with the Pro Controller, you had to stop what you were doing, grab your Nintendo Switch, and switch to handheld mode. Disconnect your Pro Controller entirely, and all of that just to get Malabar. And listen, I get it. It's one thing to tilt your 3DS for a little quirky gimmick, but when you're cozy on your couch only to be forced through a whole process, that is next level annoying, and it earns Inkay's evolution method the number 4 spot on our list for that exact reason. One of the most obscure evolution methods in Pokemon history has got to be Galarian Yamask, evolving into Runerigus. It's somewhat similar to White Stripe Basculin's evolution. Hear me out. Your Yamask needs to take a specific amount of damage, but this time it doesn't have to be recoil damage. On paper, that sounds really easy, that after your Galarian Yamask takes at least 49 damage in a single battle without fainting, you'd think the evolution would just happen. But nope, you've got to take it to a specific location called the Dusty Bowl in Galar's wild area and run underneath a large rock arch formation there. Then and only then will the evolution trigger. Like, how are we supposed to even figure this out? I get wanting to make evolution methods creative and memorable, and honestly, I'm here for it. But run under a random rock archway is such a bizarre leap in logic that there's no way anyone just stumbled upon this naturally without looking it up. Someone got left in the kitchen too long and overcooked this method. For all of that unnecessary frustration, this method is going to land at number 3 on our list. And you might be thinking, if that was only number 3, what could possibly be worse? Scattered all over the Paldea region, you'll find something known as roaming form Gimmighoul, perched on signs, ruins, or random relics squawking at you until you give it attention. As a reward, it drops a random number of Gimmighoul coins. Then there are the chest form Gimmighouls, hanging out in relic sites and towers, which are more generous, dropping at least a minimum of 50 coins when defeated or caught. As you'll eventually come to find out, evolving Gimmighoul into Gholdengo requires collecting a whooping 999 Gimmighoul coins. What makes this so frustrating is that it's essentially a game-long scavenger hunt. If you're not actively collecting coins from the roaming ones or taking the time to battle chest Gimmighouls while exploring, you'll eventually have to backtrack across the entire region to farm what you may have missed. And even with the fast travel points, that's a lot of time spent retracing your extra steps for something you could have done along the way. For being such a tedious and time-consuming grind, this evolution method easily earns the number 2 spot on our list. The most annoying evolution in Pokemon history is you pressing the subscribe button to become a subscriber. Okay, that was just a plug, but for real, it's Melmetal. There are a lot of reasons why this one actually takes the crown, but let's start with the big one. It's a Pokemon Go exclusive evolution. If you never played Pokemon Go, evolution in this game isn't as simple as just gaining levels. Instead, you need to collect candies for each Pokemon by catching the same species over and over again. And for Melton, you need a jaw-dropping 400 candies to evolve it into Melmetal. However, Melton isn't just a Pokemon that you can casually encounter while strolling around. To spawn it, you need something known as the Mystery Box, which is unlocked by connecting your Pokemon Go account to your Nintendo account and transferring a Pokemon from Go into Pokemon Home. Once you do that, the Mystery Box will then appear in your Go inventory. Opening it up triggers a 60-minute window where Meltan spawns in the wild, giving you a limited time to catch as many as possible. If you didn't manage to get 400 candies in one session, tough luck. There's actually a real-life 3-day cooldown before you can use the Mystery Box again. No time manipulation tricks like you can on the Switch, you just have to wait it out. And for those who know about this, if you're thinking, why not skip all that and just transfer the special Melmetal from Pokemon Home? Sure, you could use the one you get as a mystery gift for your first Go to Home transfer, but that Melmetal comes with something known as a Gigantamax factor, meaning it's locked in Home unless you transfer it to Sword and Shield and then remove the the Gigantamax factor. You then need to collect 3 max mushrooms in the Isle of Armor to make the max soup and strip the factor away. Whether you're grinding out 400 candies in Go or jumping through hoops to get rid of Gigantamax, this evolution method is a nightmare, especially for players who don't even play Pokemon Go. There's no question that this entire thing earns its spot as the #1 most annoying rage-inducing evolution method. But what's even more rage-inducing are these really obscure shiny hunts, which you can watch right over here. Click on it.